Greetings and salutations, friends. I am your host, Pat626, and I regularly host Subculture Shock on Twitch and a lot of other places, actually, where I get to play a lot of new bands, artists in the goth, industrial, darkwave, deathrock genres that you just haven't heard before, or songs by bands you have heard before. And I recently had a treat where I got to discover ManifestiV. And so tonight in the virtual studio with me, I have Paragraph and Lillith sitting in much more comfortable chairs than I am, it looks like.
Yeah, Labor Day sale, a
Oh,
couple of years ago. And
well,
they're compact, modular, they shrink if you need them to. They hold beverages, etc.
awesome. Matt, you know what? Let's forget talking about the album. I want to hear all about your furniture. Let's go. All right.
Oh no, that's it. We are very defunct of chairs. We make
For
chairs out of like benches and gear, mostly amps, sometimes beds. However, Lilith does have an amazing art chair that she could do hours dremeling a skull mandala like what we sell on our Bandcamp and at our merch booth live. Uh, Knocking them out like that because it's like it makes up for the other chairs in the house that are like, here's a stool, here's a, because sometimes you need all the floor space in the world for yoga or a live band or processing a goat or whatever. We haven't done that here. That was in Dallas. Hopefully we didn't offend any vegans. If we did then, accidentally.
Oops. You know what? That's all right. Well, we'll move on. So, first of all, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you, Pat, for having
Hello,
me.
all. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, good times are had by all. So, I always like to start off with what I call the supervillain origin story, since we're a goth show here. So,
Oh,
but specifically, before we start talking about how ManifestiV came to be, how in the world did either of you even get into listening to this kind of music, let alone making it?
Oh, for me, um, I kind of discovered it in high school, and the transformation was pretty much overnight. I was a raver at the time, and just I think the very first thing I actually heard was Planet Zymox, the CD, Tomb the Underground, and yeah, it was just so it was like nothing I've ever heard before then. So I was hooked since.
Okay. Clan of
spent a
Zymox
lot
is
of time
just
in. She spent a lot of time in Germany too for a few
Yeah,
years, and got a lot of kind of wave gothic treffen like every just you know she was in the front lines of exposure of the newest underground, kind of like quintessential goth industrial there too.
I have
yeah.
never been to Germany, but from what I've been told, everyone that goes there comes back a goth. So it's
It's
just like
essentially,
it's one of those requirements.
Depends on where they go. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. There are parts of old West Germany that were far more conservative. But East Germany is the true industrial because they lived, behind the Iron Curtain until like 90 plus or minus. So,
Mm.
yeah, they kind of got hardened by that, and the fashion, of course, reflected that as well. Eins zu Neubauten also.
Oh, you're speaking my language now. That was one of my first loves in the scene, actually.
Yeah, it just got Habermensch. We just got Habermensch on vinyl. Oh,
Ooh, ooh, jelly,
so many
jelly.
teeth, so many teeth. I could hang on. Where's E? Where's E? Hey, you can still hear me too. This is cool. That means you're in the bedroom with me. Hi, everybody.
Woo! Well, you know
Woo!
what? I think you are officially the first interviewee that I went into the bedroom with. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, look at all those
Uh,
teeth. Look at all
that
those teeth.
that is a thing of beauty.
Oh yeah, it sounds great too. Blixa sounds angrier
Well, yeah, I
on
mean,
vinyl.
Blixer was already scratchy enough on his own, and now he's got the vinyl to help him out.
Okay, so hey, while we're vinyling and while we're blixing, I've
Okay.
got you right here. I've got you right here, girl. Everybody's a girl. It's non-binary. Okay, Danny Elfman's Big Mess Deluxe disc 4
All right.
has Blixa. Let me try to get it right for the camera. Towards the end, at bottom of that track list, featuring Elixir Bar Guild. In
Uh,
Time, the second to last track. So it's
hot
him doing the
damn.
vocals that Danny Elfman wrote, and he does them in German, and then he does them in English. Oh, so great.
Okay, so I'm coming to your house and I'm stealing your record collection. I got it.
Yeah, no, you're sitting down Clockwork Orange style, and we're putting you through everything from Heroes to Cyro to Blacklight Burns. Yeah, find the house first.
God,
No, we've got
talk
Tim Burton,
dirty
Batman
to
1,
me.
Batman.
Wow.
we've got Tim Burton, Batman 1 vibes at the house. Like if you put in our actual postal address, you'll get lost in every GPS. We have to trick it into thinking it's another city to give people the right address. Like, so you couldn't just like, oh, find our address and then find us. It's pretty awesome, actually. And it's, you get the lights and the leaves, like that scene when Batman's taking Vicky Vale to the Batcave. Every time we go home from Dallas or tour, so great.
You put that on in the car to make sure that you got the mood
I've
right.
been looking for it. I've been looking for it. When we were Amoeba in Hollywood just a few weeks ago on our tour, I looked for the Batman 1 soundtrack to be able to do that. And found the Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack instead.
So I've got you beat there. While I don't have it on vinyl, I've got it on CD. So
okay, so just the Danny Elfman or the Prince?
All of it. It's like a combo. It does the score along with the Prince tracks.
God. Pardon me. Pardon me.
All right, so we completely got off because we actually only heard Lilith's answer to the first question, but instead we got to geek out about music, which is kind of the point. So how did you get in? Other than your total love for Danny Elfman and the Batman soundtrack, how did you get into listening? Yeah, that's fair. I'm not going to deny that.
You answered the question. Like I came home from having seen like Batman 1 and maybe like Edward Scissorhands, like 89 to 91, and just played the theme on the piano as a whatever, like 8, 6, 10-year-old, whatever age happened to be.
Time is fake, whatever.
Yeah, it's a measurement. No, there's no such thing as age as levels. If you've made it this far, it's that level. Anyway, yeah. And my parents were like, "Oh my God, how'd you do that?" So it was by ear and influenced all the way up to my first few metal bands. I would sneak in like Danny Elfman movements in there with like as a bridge or something. So that started it. It's funny. I thought Nine Inch Nails was a rap band when I first heard Down in It. When I was getting into like early 90s rap at the time, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, kind of like a cloud. I was up way up in the sky. Well, little white kid in Irving.
To be fair, Trent Reznor thought he was in a rap band during that song. So
yeah, he did, with the tape on the jacket. And did you read the hard copy or hear the hard copy video story about the video they shot for Down in It, and they lifted it up in a balloon, and somebody, the FBI found it and they thought it was an actual murder and they did an investigation.
Oh God!
Yes, look it up. Down in It hard
Beautiful.
Copy, like Nine Inch Nails, Down in It hard copy. Anyway, so that, and then it's crazy. Kind of went back and forth between like enemies. Grunge and metal were enemies, especially in the mid '90s. Unplugged in New York and Far Beyond Driven were neck and neck at the charts, and I loved both. This is a David Bowie. That was a David Bowie song. Oh, and then Strength Beyond Strength. Let's do it. Neither of which are goth, but the bridge is.
Yeah.
Enter Nine Inch Nails. Enter Manson.
It's like you can't choose between alternative and metal, so you go right down the middle for goth rock. Okay, that
Smells Like Children by Manson was an original CD, when in fact it was a remix CD. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are crazy. Are they just always on acid? But no, that was just a remix compilation. And then I heard Antichrist Superstar, and I was like, okay, that's totally blasphemy by saying that's goth, because I, at the same time, was discovering Sisters of Mercy, My Life with the Theoco Cult. Lillith introduced me to Clan of Zymox. I had no clue who they were forever. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm in love. And she also introduced me to Fields of the Nephilim. Oh man, I love them. It's like Vampire Hunter D started a band. Everybody's dusty and has dusters and big long hats. Yeah. Am I wrong?
No, I have never thought of it that way, but that is the most beautiful thing to ever have been said on this show. Holy shit. Holy shit.
Am I wrong? There's wind and shit. Okay, so Apple Music lets you save. Yeah, Apple Music lets you save music videos. We have ManifestiV, our own like 36-hour playlist of music videos, including our own. It's not cheap to get them on there or to make them, and we feel like they stand up. It's a lot of work. We could be proud of ourselves, can't we? And Fields of Nephilim video comes on, and there's wind and leaves, blah, blah, everything's reverb, and everybody's got reverb on everything, and
Yeah, it
reverb.
kind of reminds me of that Spider-Man noir quote from Enter the Spider-Verse from Nick Cage. You know, it's like, where I go, the wind follows, and the wind smells like rain.
Completely. That's their whole mood.
Yep.
That's their whole mood. Okay, so that's kind of how
Any
it went.
Fields of the Nephilim fans out there? I'm sorry,
That's
but
all right.
I'm not.
So that was the goth side, and then Skinny Puppy and Ministry basically put the nails in the coffin on the industrial side. And of course, seeing Rammstein live April '98 in Hollywood at a club the size of something like a 200-seater, but they still had fire.
Yeah.
I'm like checking for my eyebrows every other song, and saw Hansel and Gretel open. And it was So then too. That's how we got into it.
The Rammstein tickets were cheap at that point. They only cost you your
$17.50.
Yeah.
$17.50
and your facial hair.
Hollywood. Yeah. I was right at the verge of being able to. I don't think I did. Maybe I was messing with a soul patch, but no.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
All right, so you get into the music. Why do you start making it?
Because you want to answer that first?
Oh, good.
Okay. I mean, I really didn't know how to make it at the beginning. Like a good bit of artists, I've just combined. Like I just learned as much as I could, and then eventually started throwing stuff on witch's woo together. Just learn entire albums like Candy Ass by Orgy, Animal by Tool, Antichrist Superstar by Manson, Mechanical Animals by Manson, Downward Spiral, all Tool, Nirvana, like Deftones, Skinny Puppy as well. Like learning the KMFDM, learned a lot of like what Günter Schultz was doing on guitar and like the real sparsity of it. And
could you let Günter Schultz know what he was doing on guitar? Because I'm not sure he was aware.
Yeah, he kept a delay on it to sound cooler, which is everybody from David Gilmour to Wes Borland to definitely myself do it. The delay trick, yeah, go for it, man. It makes for the stage. Started making it because I realized after like covering enough Nine Inch Nails songs, like dubbing tape to do Closer like 16 times using just a Casio keyboard, I was like, wow, this really gets like a lot of my like crap feelings out. And I see people be like, oh, thank you, I was feeling that crap feeling and it's gone. And so I just see it heal, and that gave it momentum for me. It's like it became like a mental health mechanism, coping mechanism. No joke. I was like, yeah, the more honest it is to how I feel, edgy, gritty, just really beautiful next to really ugly, back and forth. It's being a Gemini, the contradictory pendulum. It's it helps as long as it helps people, myself and others.
I'm gonna put a flag on that to come back and look at that, because that's a really interesting question. But before we go too deep into that, Lillith, how did you get involved with all this crazy music making thing?
I kind of stumbled into it. It wasn't something that I was really even aware of. I grew up around a lot of instruments, but nobody really seemed to take the time to teach me. So I just kind of Googled on my own. And I've been around like a lot of keyboards and things like that. So eventually when I went to high school, I wanted to be in the actual marching part of marching band, but because I had already like some kind of an affinity with keyboards, they ended up putting me in the pit, which I initially really hated. I hated playing mallet instruments. I wanted to march. And so it was, but I didn't want to not play music. So I reluctantly took the part, and I ended up being really good at it, reluctantly.
Yeah, like Kurt Cobain and Dimebag, a vibraphone.
And then fast forward, I meet Paragraph, and long story short, we end up in California, and he doesn't want to really do a solo project. And my only real experience with making music is on mallet instruments, which I didn't have at the time. Most people don't normally have like a vibraphone or a marimba sitting around in their house.
Yeah,
so
most people.
Unless you're Danny Elfman. He's got 14. He's got 14 marimbas. One day we're gonna work together.
But so I was offering my help, but at the same time, I didn't even have like anything. So we ended up looking for instruments on eBay and places like that, and even a semi playable mallet instrument, you're looking at least a couple grand getting into it.
Right.
So we were really broke at the time, and I figured, well, the keys are the thing that makes the noise, so let's just start with that. So we ended up getting a bunch of keys from a trailer apparently that got destroyed, and it had a vibraphone in it. So the whole vibraphone was destroyed, but the keys were fun because they were aluminum. In a
Okay.
vibraphone, the keys are made out of metal, so they're kind of indestructible.
Yeah, the brass instruments didn't even survive, but the keys did.
And so I just bought the keys for like $600, and we literally taped them to a piece of cardboard.
Velcroed them, drew a layout with pen and pencil, like, okay, this is how the 37 keys will go, F to F to F to F, and then just learned a bunch of stuff off Ghosts by Nine Inch Nails, and like, because it's the only industrial thing we found that had back in the days of Vine. Yeah, we started vining a bunch of Ghost loops, and then we. I'm just
thinking about like an abode. Like in my mind, I just have like a little cartoon scene where an abode gets hit by a tornado, and these vibraphone slats just like fly out everywhere, fall on the ground, just in the picture of something kind of resembling a vibraphone, and then you walk over and start playing it.
Do that comic, please. She's.
I guess it's kind of like an expanded version of that.
Oh my goodness! No, she's made incredible comics and sold. Not only do we have the God is a Martian comic for our album, but a couple about like, a perfectly super goth person going to the California DMV and like clouds with rain following them and stuff. Or like another one was about an ant that like struggled. And, yeah, so make a comic about that, please. Someday. She's very busy.
Lillith, don't worry. So it happens on every single episode of Subculture Talk, where a new project gets thought of like in it, and we all demand it for the rest of the episode. But so
awesome.
Make the Silva origin story comic. Silva is the name of the vibraphone. Silva.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so immediately kept fresh in chat notes for #CryFest that happened during his interview. Oh, good times. So
what happened?
So I'm thinking about this. How it sounds like this was very much just like Paragraph started off like your kind of thing, and Lillith, you've helped make it your own as well. The thing that
over time, because my at that moment in time, while we were crafting this thing, I had zero experience with your like rock band, like your, all of my music experience beforehand was with marching band. So it was a very, I thought all my expectations were totally not like who I thought they were, like as we progressed.
It's been a really good sport, but like.
So so it was a bit of a learning curve for me.
Right.
Because at that time, Paragraph had already been a tenured, I would say, metal guitarist for.
Yeah, industrial metal in like North Texas for about a decade and a half or so.
12 years maybe already. So it was all like super fresh to me.
And she was a natural. I'm like, you're my favorite bandmate. You like know what to do, and you're like fat. I love every other person I've been in a band with. I promise, but like, it's too natural to have not done it. So like, that's why it works so well so fast. And then like 183 shows 8 years later.
I realize there's a certain discipline that you learn in marching band that people who just start off in rock bands don't have.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's alluding to. And I see it sometimes, and it's interesting, like how far they make it, even with that mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the non-marching schooled Yeah, it's basically like military and music had a baby, and if they haven't done that before, it's just so like nobody knows what's going on notes.
I was gonna
So, but it's
say,
just
like, very few just bands that start out in the garages have had J.K. Simmons sitting there smacking them when they hit the wrong notes. So, like,
exactly,
that
yeah.
sort of thing. So, wow, all that child abuse really paid off.
I was gonna make a dark joke. Never mind.
There goes that road.
Woo!
Sipping my tea.
Oh, so it sound so I wanted to go back to this whole feeling of baking the music because you almost have to because it ends up
Oh
being
yeah,
a mental yeah, a mental relief for you. It's a coping mechanism at the worst of times. At the best of times, it's a coping strategy. It's actually therapeutic. It's cathartic.
right.
Um, so that has a couple of consequences. One of those things is what happens when you're not in a shit mood? Or is it just like living in the global pandemic and economic collapse of the United States of America has just made it so we never have to worry about that? We're just always, that's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
Like okay, like our moods, especially both being Geminis, they're like very fractally spectrumy. It can be pretty much all over the place on either side, and it's usually pretty well balanced. Like before a show, one of us will be real verbose and the other's like dead silent, and then afterwards the exact inverse, and it's never consistent which is which, but the balance is. Um, but when the therapy begins, downbeat of the show, it all feeds to it. If it's negative or positive or like everything goes to like the healing energy between artist and audience and making it one. We really try to connect with that. We try not to have too much of a veil, even though there's a lot of smoke and mirrors of what we're doing. We try to connect for sure. And like one time, middle of summer 2020, it was the second day that Governor Greg Abbott called a lockdown in the state of Texas that morning. And we had a show booked that night. And the venue was like punk, like, Washington, D.C. He was one of the original hippies that like protested like back in the day. He's like, no, we're still having the show. So we did the show and wore masks and we're safe. We're already wearing masks. That's why our phone blew up with the pandemic. We were signaling the pandemic. She was doing bat wings back in 2016 and then suddenly Wuhan and like, hey, we told you. We didn't mean to, but it's just kind of how it came out. So so there were a lot of law enforcement people that showed up in the middle of our set. Talk about a mood just kind of getting thrown at you live. And we're like, oh God, are they here to shut us down? And they were totally cool. And we looked right at them and we're like, masked, post-apocalyptic, looks like we could be a member of who knows what. And they were cool. And it ends up just because the one of the staff had made an inappropriate comment about like, oh, well, the governor can, and they're like, oh, really? And
that is kind of scary though, that he made like a weird comment on Facebook
yeah,
and like 5 cops showed up to like arrest him. So,
it's like Abbott like needs to, and cops are there. But when they show up in the middle of the set, we didn't know that. And we're just like, oh, they're here to shut us down. Let's stay calm. Let's stay cool. Let's stay whatever, however crazy the moods have been all day because we almost lost the show and had to contact bands one by one. Are you still into it? Are you still into it? Are you still into it? Because everybody was real cautious then,
Right.
As I kind of wish would have sustained, but the venues and everything's changed. But yeah, so dude, you never know. You really never know. The state of everything. It really is just, at least personally for me, accelerated my appreciation for every single breath and moment. Because any of it could end at any time. There could be another lockdown. There could be another mutation. There could be anything. And I try not to let my moods take over. Do I succeed all the time? Maybe not. But
So I think that I was thinking more of like from the writing perspective, but
yeah,
I do like what you're saying there as far as
from the
from the
live situation.
performing live expression, whatever mood you're in, you channel that. Grab Your Face and I talked a few weeks ago about the good stress, the good stress
Yes.
versus the negative stress, like
Yeah.
the excitement and how you definitely want to have that going into the show. And if you've got negative stress, you do your best to like channel that into excitement and do the show with it.
Exactly. Change
I-
its lane over to positivity. As far as
exactly.
writing, though, now I understand the question on that. Yeah, it is kind of weird. Like writing in a good mood, at least for our particular brand is a strong word of music. Yeah, when you're in a good mood, you don't write. You go outside, you work on stuff. You like, because there's no real therapy needed. So when life kind of goes well, it's crazy. There's dry spells. I mean, you've got moods and you capture little like riffs here and there, but there's no story there's no purge to need to like take out. So it's almost kind of like the struggle or like kind of the tragedy needs to be there to like really push. And it's always plentiful. I thought before our union, I was such a seemingly romantic at the time. I was like, oh my god, what am I going to write about when my heart's not broken anymore? Oh well, now that I've kind of like solved it, and locked into soulmate for life. This is now there's heartbreak just looking around at the world and the naivety of its
Oh,
impending doom.
I get
So
it. So it's your fault. I get it now. So
yeah,
it's basically a
yep.
paragraph sitting there like, oh man, my life is so much better. What am I going to write about? Monkey's paw curls and.
Yeah.
Yeah, we predicted all of this in 2016 with the bat costume. So
Well, hence the record Horseman has 4 tracks and 4 members and if you look from left to right, it may or may not go pestilence, plague, famine, death, but I'm not saying anything.
I'm all your fault. I'm sticking with it. We now know who to blame for all the world's ills these days. So, but hey, thanks for the great musical inspiration at least, because
Yeah, you're welcome.
there's
And a couple of summers off from global warming ish, whatever,
yeah.
kind of got to heal. That's not funny. Too soon.
Oh, it's always going to be too soon. So I have to pause the discussion for a second because this chat is blowing up, and
Thanks.
you've got
Thanks. I have
you've
no
got
idea what's going on. Great. Okay.
yeah, no, you've got
Hi. Hi,
a
everybody. We
lot
love
of
you. We're
great
not
things
ignoring you.
that yeah, no, it's awesome. So first of all, Kip Fresh and I talking about how the fact that you're both Geminis, I am convinced that that makes you both like you're like video game bosses then. I'm now imagining the ManifestiV level because
oh yeah,
with some sort of like Gemini twin thing going on. Gotta
Yes.
happen.
Yes. Do you ever
So
watch Super Jail? Yeah. Yeah. Like,
uh,
yeah. Almost like that. Like we could just destroy things with our thoughts and we're pure aura. Yeah. No, there's no destruction here. Promise.
Also, Medusa Dawn would like to note that your live shows are the best in the scene.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's so
yeah. So
sweet. No,
hey,
Medusa Dawn is more than family. She's mom. She holds us together. Preach.
does that mean that
And kept.
you keep asking to borrow her car?
Haha. No, we just keep throwing square readers at her. Hey, please help this person while I'm connecting this weird video of the apocalypse at these poor strangers who just came here for rock and roll. They didn't want to watch the earth burn, but we're gonna make it happen. Can you take care of this real quick? Yeah, she helped us out in the last show. It's really, really cool. It's super cool. Helps us out a lot. She's hosting her next show, believe it or not, in Dallas.
I
The one on
believe
the
it.
books. Because one's at Burning Man. You really can't put on the books because the whole thing about that is spontaneous. So we can't say when we're playing
Nobody
there.
knows.
But yeah, September 21st at Haltom Theater. There's a weekly goth industrial night in
All right.
Haltom City, Texas. It's called Latex, Latx. Get it? Because it's in Texas.
Ah, ah,
Yep.
ah,
It's so funny.
aha.
And I live and die for puns, so I'm already happy about that. And then it's an evening with and more than one foray, because there may be a DJ.
yeah. I think Bloody might be there, or Sean Ephraim, or
Sean couldn't make it. I do believe you're right about Bloody. I should know. Medusa, please put it in the comments.
Nah,
Hold us
DJs
together
aren't
again.
real.
I didn't. Oh, okay. Before Burning Man, I didn't think so either. And then just like seeing decks and seeing what people actually have to do in it, it is not musical at all. I mean, it is. You're working with like beat matching and just sliding, but oh my god, it's so much. It's like violin was for me. I'm like, oh well, I could play almost any instrument. No, like
Yeah.
same thing with a deck. She's got it. I don't. It is its own art form, and being in the kind of bred from the San Francisco Bay Area, it gave us that unique perspective because there's a lot of distension between the musicians and DJs. There's a lot like, oh man, you got it so easy. It's just suitcase, slap and go, hit the space bar, yeah. Or as Wes Borland mocks DJ Lethal in the Limp Bizkit home video, push a button, play a record. Push a button, play a record. I love them both. DJ Lethal follows us on Twitter. Yeah, I screen grabbed it when it happened back in like 2014 when we started as a band. Either way. No, DJing is its own art form, and I totally respect it because it's reading the crowd. And I'm so obsessed with like how the technology is going live during a show. I'm not reading the crowd, and she's like got DJ goggles on, like, hey, we should cut the song out of the set now, or else we're going to lose this, and we'll make a change, and then we'll save it, or we won't, and it'll dissipate according to her predictions. It's, dude, like so much love to it's completely own art form.
All right, hold up.
Gonna put that out there.
So you are actually like moving the set around and changing the sets as the performance is happening, Lillith?
Sometimes, yeah.
I'll let her call. I can't read the crowd like she can, and she does.
I can, well, yeah, because we just have different songs with different vibes to them, and I'll legitimately look at the crowd and look at the bands who have played before us and what will follow us, and I will sometimes right before we play a show just rearrange the songs.
That happened a couple times on tour. Better. This last tour, I think, San Francisco, we did it. Opened the tour with a set that we didn't intend to play, and it blew up in her face in a good way, an amazing way. At the Batcave.
That's such a level of professionalism, though. That and also just the empathy that needs to be involved in that. Like as someone that's been in a band, and yeah, exactly. As someone that's been in a band and DJs live, like that is not an easy skill to do, and to be able to do it. And for Paragraph, for you to just be able to go along with it, because I know some bands
why I don't do it.
They have to keep the same order of their sets. They practice that set, and if the order gets changed up at the last second, they're going to run into problems. So it's really cool that you guys are able to.
It depends on how they're technically set up. Some bands just can't do that,
right?
For technical reasons.
We leave flexibility.
That's actually
playlist that we could drag around stuff on the go.
That's actually one of the things that actually makes ManifestiV unique. And somebody who went to our show last time actually pointed that out. They were like, wow, you guys are really like flexible, because sometimes we'll play with 4 people, sometimes we'll play with 3, sometimes it's just us 2. But yeah, we are, I mean, you can throw any, like, we've literally had this happen to where people, we were practicing with a set amount of people for a set amount of time, and then the night before, everything completely changed. The night before.
That was the Haxton show. We opened for the Haxtons.
Like Piggy got cut, like everything changed around the show.
Before. We're like, cool. We've been practicing an hour for 3 months.
And
we'll change the order for 40 minutes. And it was like probably one of our best shows. It's not our best show in Dallas. Like, it's up there. It was up there for sure.
But we helped run a jam camp at Burning Man, so improv is kind of like in our blood anyway.
Yes.
So it doesn't catch us as off guard as it would probably other bands.
Burning Man sharpens our pencil, not only metaphysically in all sorts of ways, but definitely for that live
phrasing. I am so glad that you can't see my face during this interview, because
I'm sure it's all 50 Shades of Red.
It's amazing. Like, I have not been able to stop grinning like a fucking fool this entire time. So yeah.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you. That makes it so worth it. I mean,
this is so neat though, because like it seems to me that your passions, that things that like things that you were trained for, and other things that some people wouldn't feel like have anything to do with a dark industrial or goth band, you're weaving it all in together and
Yeah.
and playing to all of your strengths, and that's
Thank you.
incredible. Yeah, you're.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
no,
much.
that's such a big deal. And I feel
Thank
like
you.
that's, because you always want to ask. One of the common questions in interviews like this is, what advice would you give to budding musicians out there? And here's a piece right here: is no matter what music you're making, play to your damn strengths.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Eric Prada. He was a gymnast
Yeah.
and a drummer.
Yeah.
And-
Fever 333 drummer.
And he does backflips into his drum set.
Yeah. You look him up on
Whoa!
YouTube. And he has
Yes.
a drum set set up with two different
Speaking of
drums.
playing to your strengths,
Two
right?
different drums, because he was a gymnast for years before touching
Mhm.
drums, and he's probably one of the most incredible drummers on the planet.
Yeah.
And he would
Aric.
he
He
would-
spells his name
ARIC and Improta, IMPROTA. So he does. It's all in time. He doesn't break beat either.
Right.
It's like boom da boom boom da boom boom da boom 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 da boom.
He's
Two
describing-
kits.
Yeah, he's describing a video where there's two kits kind of facing each other. head to
What?
head, and he literally
Ass to ass,
Seriously.
two thrones, and then two.
the two thrones are here,
Yeah.
and he's playing, and then he flips into the other
The second drum
throne and doesn't miss the thing that he's
Holding the
playing.
sticks, finishes the fill,
Yeah,
and goes
finishes
on to
the
the next
fill
fill. Yeah.
in the-
YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you are
Totally
watching this video on YouTube right now, I will not be offended if you pause, go to that video, and then come
Yeah.
back to this interview. I
It's
understand.
worth-
I think they have like a shortened clip of it that's like a minute or less. Yeah, because it's from a long thing. He did a thing for Minor Symbols, an instrumental album that was by himself, 45 minutes, and he was doing stuff with a loop pedal and like hitting the bell with a microphone on it, and the microphone's hooked up to a whammy. You go, the stuff she's doing with the vibraphone, he was doing with the physical drum set.
Mhm.
And we're like, he turned us on to the Roland Octopad, and we're like, our spirit animal, come on, play with us. So yeah, no, we have.
All
our
right, so
heroes
this
sometimes.
is a duet that needs to happen sometime, apparently. Like, there we
I
go.
know. Well, he collaborates with everybody. He collaborated with Monkey and the bassist for Suicidal Tendencies, who's standing in for Korn right now, whose name I don't remember. I hate that, but he was incredible. Saw him live with them with Korn. They were awesome. So those two and him did a collaboration as a trio, like just a random song together, not related to either band. And Justin Chancellor, the drummer from the bassist from Tool, also did one with Eric.
Huh.
And it's like in a room, like a really tight room, like with mirrors, and they both had one, and like did it with the pandemic, the lockdown, send back and forth, edit together, but both kind of had a little mirror room that they were in, and made it super psychedelic, amazing. He does this stuff with people all the time, so I really think something like that could happen.
Hashtag get Eric and
ManifestiV.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right.
That's one for
Anybody watching this with a Twitter account right now, you know what to do. All right, let's go. So
yeah, find him. Find us.
Wow. So we've talked a lot about the live stuff, but with Kip Frisch sitting there in the chat
so
watching
glad.
me, I feel
he needs to reel us into the studio.
Yeah,
because live has been kind of a survival mechanism. You're talking about surviving with the heat.
Yeah.
With the healing earlier. Well, also when we got earthquaked out of our house in Vallejo, it was like, okay, let's just stay on tour, and we toured for like 6 months straight, and
Right.
Technically, it ended up being like 4 years with
Yeah.
breaks of like finding housing in between.
Yeah, like little winter stays in one house for like a month or two, and then like go out for another tour, go out of the country for a month or two. There's a few years.
Well, we basically toured for 4 years until the truck's engine. Basically
2018.
Yeah,
so it's like 14 to 18, like band birth.
And then we found our way. Actually, it was crazy. We finally kind of settled in an apartment in Dallas, and on our way to moving into the apartment, the engine just like completely like ate shit, and there was white smoke coming out the tailpipe, and all like pulling into the apartment parking lot. Like, okay, this is it. We're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah,
the end of an era.
18 months, end of an era, and the beginning of another. Okay, so studio. I know we're trying to get to that. Okay, studio is huge. This is so synchronistic. This is happening right now because let's see. our relationship with Give Take has gone back to probably one of those first tours, our second tour, the Glacier tour, the long one that was like, this or homelessness, let's do this. And it was great, and it was the best decision we had ever made. Played with Kept and an amazing band called Patch. Like Nine Inch Nails and Muse had like a baby that was like just amazing. And then anybody listening, look up Kept, KPTFRSH.com is a place to start, and that's usually a shortcut tag everywhere. But it's KPT is the band, Kept, pronounced Kept. He did a remix of ours on our recent release with Give Take. We weren't always on the label, but we were working with him since 2015. Since that show, we kind of kept a good relationship, did a lot of online things together. Death Dance, the other group that one of the groups that Kept is in, features Gus Watkins, who is in a group called Bijou Noir. All of these are Give Take artists, along with David J., the bassist from Bauhaus. Yep. The keyboardist from Ministry/Fear Factory, John Bechtel, is in a band called Heatwave International. It's also on Give Take. And we just had Godflesh. The name, again, escaped. The recall mechanism just like announced the signing and is in the exact same stage that we are. Again, answering your question, we're solidifying demos this weekend because we've kind of had like touring and a Burning Man and a half, and maybe just only one Burning Man. Is a flexible summer happen, heat wave, all that. We're sending demos to Give Take right before we leave for Burning Man to put out a record this fall, and it's gonna be spacey. It's gonna feel empty. It's the future of humanity looking back at the past, which is our present, wondering what happened and why we let it get that way. In a Cliff Note version, that's the mood of how the studio's going. The collaboration that birthed it all was actually a reunion. I worked with an artist at the turn of the century named LCN1, like very AFX, Aphex Twin, Autechre, all the A bands, very cool, glitchy, but like really cool harmonies in there, and sometimes really cool, soft ambient things along those lines. But is his very own. That's just the best way I could describe what he's doing. Cut our first record together. I was like 17, and he was like 16, right? And then last summer, our bassist, Kevin Porter, and Chris, LCM1, and myself had been friends off and on for years, just life, did this thing. And last summer it did that. And Chris is like, I have all these loops that I have no direction with. And I was having trouble getting the engine of the turn for the next record because we just put Horseman out, a speechless reaction to what happened in the pandemic. And we're like, okay, well, we better say something on the next one because we took a record off writing any lyrics and left it all up to Antonio Guterres, the UN.
The only lyrics, and we did this on purpose to where there was no lyrics throughout the whole album of Horseman. The only lyrics were the UN Secretary General saying that the planet is basically broken. The State of the Planet address at the
end of 2020 that he delivered to the UN at Columbia University. It's in the if you look at the business as usual video on YouTube, it's in the signature as well as a timeline of everything that's supposed to happen. And
business
sources.
As usual is actually the IPCC report, just animated. It's
distilled into 4 minutes.
And what's even more wrenching is that all the stuff that's happening in that video is like kind of
worse
now.
And it's worse than what we. I know. Yeah. And we put it out on Halloween. We were like, "Oh, this is scary."
Yeah, we put it on Halloween to be scary and edgy, like granted, it's all truthful stuff.
Which is what makes it scary.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like dystopian novels were supposed to be like, well, like these are the things that are bad that are happening now, and this is how they could get much worse. And at this point, dystopian novels look like fantasies compared to what we're living in. So
1984,
there was what was it, Lake Mead and Fallout?
Oh yeah.
Lake Mead now is lower than the Lake Mead and Fallout game.
Yeah. If you go
it's actually worse.
There's an article about it. There's an article about how the Lake Mead and Fallout has more water than real life Lake Mead today. Okay. The music. Okay. LCM1 came back into our lives with all these loops, and we didn't know how to follow Horseman up. very biblical end of times, the post-trib, if you're into that jargon. And it was great. Brought Kevin in because Kevin hadn't really helped with writing, although Kevin's the reason I ever picked up guitar, our current bassist. Right. I was strictly keyboard, strictly like faders and control knobs, and that's it. And no, nothing like beats, drum machines. I didn't want anything to do with anything live. Like guitarists were cocky, full of themselves. And Kevin was like, "No, dude, you could be an introvert and check this out. One, do 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 do, do 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 do." And I'm like, "Okay, what about like ministries? Like." And I'm like, yes, that's Thieves. He came to the farm, and we literally did this thing that ManifestiV I was telling you about. The music videos talk about ADHD or whatever the fuck I have. No diagnosis. I just wing it, raw dogging it. We turned on the ManifestiV random while we headphone jamming over the loops. So we literally were being like spoon fed. Alice in Chains, followed by Sleepytime Gorilla Museum, followed by Bjork, followed by like Plaid, followed by Fields of the Nephilim, and like influences to draw from. Oh, kind of make this sound like that a little bit. The Cure would come on live, and we'd be like, oh yeah, definitely chorusy bass. So that was the birth of the album that we're putting out this fall. And it's kind of taken a year to come full circle to like expand and contract. You know, we got a bunch of songs. That was the cream of the crop. That's a little specialty. You know, she can trance into a song and hear if something pulls her out of it, or hear if it slaps spiritually or not. And if it doesn't make the cut. There's tons like that we can pull from for soundtracks and collaborations and stuff. They're not dead songs. They're just like, they don't work with the others. They have to be like a family, you know. And we found the family.
You go off to the not used song corner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so
Horseman, go eat at the kids' table.
Case in point, Horseman was the same thing. We did 6 demos at our good friend Iceman's house in Donner Lake, Truckee, California, the middle of April 2018, and only one of those made it to Horseman 3 years later. And then another song called Arrival, I wrote that in 2007. And we just added the vibe parts. I'm like, this was always heavy, but it was missing something. Oh my God, the vibe is so pretty. Yes. That's how a lot of songs surprisingly come to be. Like, I mean, I try to make everything new as possible, but sometimes you got to pull from the bank and be like, maybe this one works now. And sometimes it does. I have another band, Secret of Boris, a record we put out called Your Ghost, had a song called Pop on it. That song Pop didn't quite make the cut because we tried to fill it up too much with stuff. So we left it open, put a vibraphone on it, and it opens up the ManifestiV debut record. Songs find a home.
Okay, I've got your bumper sticker. Ready?
Songs
your bumper sticker.
Okay.
No. Just put a vibraphone on it.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
That's
when
it.
she said vibraphone, I'm like, that's incredible. Because a lot of the demos for the first record just had like little extra like guitar leads or like a mandolin or something like a Rue violin simulated or something cute on it to make it like, you know, interesting. And then we put it on vibe. We're like, oh my goodness. And that's how a lot of those loops that we started last year with Kevin over Chris's songs have come to be a year later now as like just layered stuff on it and like, oh, give the vibe that guitar part or switch it up. Give what you originally thought would be a good vibe part over to the guitar. You know, you got to try things more than once. CJ Pierce from Drowning Pool, really good friend, such a cool soul in so many ways. Him and his wife, Elena, their dog, Kaiser, she painted him. He gave me the advice. He's like, yeah, try songs in different keys. Try songs in more than one way and move things around. We literally, as we speak, or like this morning for the demo session this weekend, LCN one was awesome enough to just shift a song half a step so that way it'll be easier to play in guitar and like open up more. Like, you know, trial and error, make it slap. And we've found the ones that slap hardest. And they'll be out this fall on Give Take Records. Should we tell them the name?
Okay.
So the working title for our record on Give Take is Eremocene. I'll spell that for you.
Yeah.
EREMOCENE. Stylized all lowercase to where there's no stems going either direction. It is the name of the era following the current Anthropocene era.
Mm-hmm. Anthropocene, yeah.
So the Anthropocene era is humanity-led technology discovery. Hey, Pax Romana of, you know, the merging of smart and smart.
Anthropocene era is actually the era in which man pretty much dominated Earth, and
Dinosaurs.
the Eremocene is the age that comes after all natural resources have been consumed.
You know, that's a really I wanted to make this comment when you were saying, hey, how do we follow up an album like Horseman? And the fact that you had already said that it was emptier, I mean, this makes complete and total sense that you would go kind of almost back to the drawing board and make completely new and completely empty sounds, because that's what you got left after the apocalypse is going back to the drawing board.
Yeah. What happened? And there's parts. We open with one of the songs that's remixed on the Bitter Truth, the pre-mix EP on Give Take, which is so cool. It's called This Is Gone. I play guitar for half of it. It's like mostly space, and it feels like so like how it feels watching what's happening now. And I just
it's still a big song, even though there's technically not as many instruments going off at once, but it still feels like a really big song. So what I do like about this new album is it's got a lot of atmosphere to it, and it's definitely different from all the other albums, but I know we were talking about mood earlier. This album definitely has big mood.
Oh yeah, man.
So we're getting towards the end, so there are a couple things that I want to ask real quick. First quick question. Now, did you become, now that you are a guitar player, did you become an arrogant asshole?
No, because I still approach it like a synthesizer player. Don't touch me. I'm non-binary. I'm an introvert. Stay away. This is my guard. This is my shield. This is my between you and me. Don't talk. Listen to this, not me. I wear a mask to cover my face. Anonymity is like the black hole of society. It's hopefully it's not between the fielding and like a black hole sucking everything in, because that's what I hope that's but yeah, as long as I keep it from like, if I play more leads, then maybe kind of, I think it comes with like doing something like this with your body, like makes that cockiness happen. But
sonically, though, I think we go back and forth playing leads.
Yeah. Oh no, the vibe lead, usually she's rocking a solo and I'm just joining the bass playing the low shit. So yeah.
And after all this, after all this time, do you feel like, so Lillith, do you feel like the concept of, as we said, just put a vibraphone on it, do you feel like you've completely tapped that, or do you find that every single album you find new ways to open up, like new paths that you open up with that instrument?
So the thing is that it's not a normal vibraphone in that it doesn't sound exactly the same for every song. So it would be more akin to a keyboard.
Okay.
Because of how it's made and arranged. So this is why we named it Silver, because it really is the only one on the planet that sounds this way.
Okay.
We after we built the vibraphone, me and my father-in-law actually built it. He's got a really nice wood shop, and he was a cabinet maker for a long time. And back to the story of us gluing the things on the cardboard. We wanted to take the show more than just like our living room, so we had to build a frame for it. And he donated some really, really nice quarter stone white oak, like flooring, like bowling alley floor level wood.
Left over from a job he was using for kindling.
Yeah, he was just throwing it into a fire. He was just burning it up because it was too short to make anything really useful out of it. But so I downloaded a book called V for Vibraphone, I think.
Yeah.
And it was by this Australian guy. And this Australian guy's like, hey, everybody should build their own mallet instruments. And it was mostly for like teenagers and stuff and kids to get into it. But so we used that guide, built the vibraphone, and then started doing shows. Well, there's no resonators on them. So there's no way to really carry sound unless you amplify them.
Okay.
And so we went through a company called K&K Sound, and their specialty is that they they mic up or amplify or piezo.
Mhm.
I still don't know how to say it. Exotic instruments.
Okay.
And so they'll do things like saxophones or vibraphones or anything like exotic. They'll find a way to do that. And so we went that route. And then we coupled that. We didn't stop there. We coupled that with a Boston GT8. And that's
what keeps it from ever getting stale, because like we want to change something.
Right. And that's kind of like where I'm getting at. So because it's more like a keyboard, because you can change so many things with the sound, it kind of prevents it from feeling kind of like repetitive.
That's so neat.
Yeah, GT8's like an effects processor. So you got pitch bend, you got wah, you got loop,
so I've got a
delay.
whole vibraphone going through an effects processor.
Yeah.
And then that whole thing goes through a bass amp. And the reason why I went with a bass amp and not a keyboard amp is because the bass amp for me has a much warmer, richer tone. I have a Rumble
Fender.
500, a Fender Rumble 500.
Yep.
And when you turn on the horn, when you do all that stuff through that, it just makes the sound like it's almost like a vinyl sound,
Yeah.
It's like it's almost
super warm, super warm.
Yeah,
super warm. Because we tried it through guitar amps, and it was way too tinny.
Yeah, it makes it sound too tinny, and I actually don't like the sound of a vibraphone.
Yeah.
So I try to get away from that bing 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 sound. Like it kind of annoys
jazz
me.
Bar.
Just because of my experience in high school, to me it was like it was getting old Ben, and I'm like, okay, I have the skill, but what can I do that's more than just like classical music or jazz music, which isn't really my thing. But
hi guys.
An instrument that's normally typecast for it,
Hi guys. We're ManifestiV, and we decided that we couldn't really quite make the music we wanted to, so we built our own musical instrument to make that music. How's it going? Jesus Christ.
Literally what we had to do, and it worked. Our very, very first show, Curse.
Wow, that's amazing. So I guess the one like last question that we have then is in case there's anybody watching right now who has not heard your music before, how the hell do they find you? Where do they get these great albums?
So the great thing about the name ManifestiV is it was named after my shortcut handle on the internet as it was born. Twitter launched, ManifestiV. Gmail launched when it was googlemail.com, ManifestiV.
Back when,
and we had no idea what to call it.
The handle back with the internet.
Yeah,
so,
AOL. That's how there's no E at the end.
And when we formed the band, we had no idea what we wanted it to name it, and then we just kept going around and around and around. We're like, okay, and then I'm like, you already have all these handles. So we kind of like we're like, let's just name it ManifestiV, because you already have this stuff. We didn't like it. That was about as deep as the thought went. Right?
The main origin name story is always shallow.
The name actually manifested itself. I know we're going away from the thing. Okay. You can easily find us by Googling us.
Yeah, and everything / it's ManifestiV. Like
SoundCloud, Apple Music,
.com, like ManifestiV.com, Instagram.com, ManifestiV.bandcamp.com. That's where you can get The Bitter Truth, which is on Give Take Records now, and there are limited copies left.
Pretty.
Look at that. It's the most plastic we've ever used, and it's punny for a reason. Look at the gorgeousness. The art design is by our very own kept fresh of the Give Take family. Lillith did the painting of the rocket leaving a dying Earth, and the Easter egg inside is the life forms that made the ship Noah's Ark style. You'll find out when you buy the record. Yeah. Everything. ManifestiV.com. I hate that website, but Facebook.com/ManifestiV. ManifestiV.tumblr.com. You'll go into our deep history like that way. If you want to go like all the way back when we were like booking the US tours from Thailand and like back and forth and living through crazy stuff back when we drank, just Google us. We're or DuckDuckGo. We're search away. A search engine of your choice away.
And it sounds like you've got stuff on YouTube as well.
Yes, youtube.com/ManifestiV. That's most
and
important.
Vimeo, right?
Yep. Vimeo does have some HD. Vimeo's got a Easter egg, like an older video we did that's kind of like if Michael Jackson and Alice in Chains did a video collab.
Yeah, it's got a really 90s vibe to it. And it's really only there.
Yeah, it's for the song called Stranger off our first record that's on there. So, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you both very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I am both proud and disappointed in myself that I managed to go the entire hour and never made a vibrator joke when talking about vibraphones.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's wrong with me. I must have the flu or something.
We need to install vibrators on. No, we're not gonna do
oh no! Shut down.
No, she's executive. I'm just legislative and sometimes judicial. Barely. I hardly judge any of the right things. But yeah, I know. Yeah, that's why we're alive. Things like that right there. Watch it in action.
So if you're catching this live, then up next is the after party, a beat match mix show where I'm going to start off by playing a track from ManifestiV and then see where the mix takes us from there. There will be live art on stream by Jasper, who is warming up as we speak. And then if you're watching on YouTube, well, you've just heard all the sites that you can go to, and ManifestiV has a YouTube channel, so you can watch all of the fantastic videos involved with that as well. New album coming out this fall, and
late fall.
Late fall. If it happens in winter, I won't hold you to it.
Thank you.
Not...
It's Texas, so winter can be anywhere between like February and February.
Yeah.
All right, but thank you all very much, and if you're live in chat, stick around. It's going to be a fun musical time, and y'all have a great evening.
Thank you guys. Everybody, peace out. Thanks for tuning in.